Hey, this is Arthur Hill, Chief Technical Strategist at TrendInvestorPro.com. Thanks very much for tuning in to our YouTube channel. And if you like this video, give a hit to that thumbs up button down below. Today, we're going to talk about 90% down days in the S&P 500. We got 3 of them in the last 3 weeks. However, we don't have a bearish breadth thrust yet. And we'll show you how those signals have panned out over the last year or so. So the first indicator is going to be advanced decline percent. We're going to show you this breadth thrust. But before we do that, there's 2 things I want to point out. First of all, the advanced decline indicators measure participation, the degree of participation. If you have a lot of advancers, that shows a high degree of participation on the upside. If you have a high number of decliners, that shows a big degree of participation on the downside. So big upside participation, generally bullish. Big downside participation, generally bearish. Now, the second thing I want to mention is really important. Forget breadth indicators based on the NYSE or the NASDAQ because you're leaving key stocks off the table. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm using indicators for the S&P 500. And the stocks in the S&P 500, around 2/3 come from the NYSE and 1/3 come from the NASDAQ. And so if you're just using NASDAQ or NYSE breadth, you're leaving out a big part of the market. In addition, the S&P 500, it's a very broad index. You're including all components. They're all nice common stocks, operating companies. I think they are operating companies, maybe 1 or 2 non-operating companies slipped in there. With the NYSE, you never know what you're going to get, I think. So looking at these indicators, we're going to see how you measure a 90% up or down day. So here in the first window, we've got advances in green there and decliners in red. And I've got a horizontal line at minus 450 and plus 450. And you can see we had 2 days below minus 450. And that means you had 2 days when more than 90% of issues declined. Now we can also do this with AD percent, which is the percentage of net advances. So you take the number of advances, you subtract the number of declines. So here we had 485 minus 15. It gives you a negative 470. And then you divide that by 500 and you get your percentage. So 80% was below minus 80% twice. And that tells you that you had 2 days when more than 90% of issues declined because 80% moved below minus 80% twice. So that's like a double 90% down day. And that is typically a bearish indication going out medium to long term. Short term, it creates an oversold condition that may give way to a bounce. But longer term, it could have more bearish ramifications. And let's look at that. Now, I think this is pretty negative because it shows the most downside participation we've had in a while. And if you look at this chart here, you can see that in the last 2 weeks, 80% has moved below minus 80% 3 times. And you look at in between, you didn't get a move even above 60%. So pretty weak bounces in between. And if you look back, you can see here we had 2 times when we moved below minus 80%, but in between there was a plus 80%. Here we had another 2 times, but in between you almost hit 80%. And then afterwards you got above plus 80%, so that negated it. But if you look back to February, and I'm not calling a crash, okay, far from it. But here we had these 3 80% down days, and then we got into a lot of volatility. You know, we had some plus 80% up days and then a lot more minus 80% down days. But basically, these 3 here are kind of like a warning shot across the bow that selling pressure is picking up considerably. Now, what I also do is I take a 10-day EMA of 80% to measure a breadth thrust. And this is my more medium to longer term indicator. It's kind of the early warning indicator. And if you look here, you can see in late February, we had a breadth thrust when the 10-day EMA moved below minus 30%. And that lasted until it was reversed with a bullish breadth thrust above plus 30% in April. And we continued higher. Now you can see we've had a lot of selling pressure, but we have yet to move below minus 30% and trigger a bearish breadth thrust. So right now, I find this very disconcerting that we've had 3 minus 80% down days and 80%, but I don't have that bearish breadth thrust signal with a move below minus 30%. So those indicators that you just saw are part of the essential breadth indicator chart list, and here you can see some of the charts here, but it's a very thorough chart list. It's organized according to index and indicator, and then we go down to the sector indicators below. I've got the big 3 indicators, and if you're interested in this chart list, all you need to do is subscribe to trendinvestorpro.com and be a subscriber to Stock Charts, and I can send you that list. So if you want to know more, check out trendinvestorpro.com or follow me on Twitter at Arthur Hill. And if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up or consider subscribing. Thanks again for tuning in and have a great day.